Do you ever feel like you're trapped in a cycle of avoiding certain things or blowing small issues out of proportion or worrying about things that you can't exactly put your finger on? I think it's easy to dismiss these tendencies as just the way we are or something that we're kind of stuck with because we've always been this way. But believe it or not, a lot of times these are actually reflections of universal human experiences. For most of us, beneath the surface of our daily lives lie fundamental anxieties that can significantly shape our choices and reactions in ways we usually don't even realize and probably would not prefer. So today we're going to explore these hidden forces and take a deeper look at what psychologists have identified as the four core existential fears and how they commonly influence our behavior. Now, of course, simply understanding these fears is not going to magically erase them, but it will help to illuminate how they might be secretly guiding our choices behind the scenes. And once we can name what we're really afraid of, we can begin to respond to it more intentionally instead of being controlled by it unconsciously. So let's just go ahead and dive in and take a look at these unseen influences, what they are, how they shape us, and how we can start to face them with more self-compassion and clarity. Now, the first and most obvious one is the fear of death, but it's really more about the anxiety that comes from knowing that our time is limited. It also encompasses the fear of loss, the unknown that lies beyond, and the potential for our existence to simply cease. So how might this affect us? Well, it can show up as a relentless drive to achieve, a fear of wasting time, or an overwhelming anxiety about aging, illness, or even taking small risks. We may also notice that we cling tightly to routines or that we always try to control everything because we're trying to create a sense of safety for ourselves. And in some cases, it can even fuel perfectionism or an obsessive desire to leave some kind of legacy so we can feel like we won't be forgotten. And while these behaviors may seem unrelated on the surface, they really do often stem from the same worry that our time is running out and we don't want to feel like we've wasted any of it. Now, the second one is the fear of freedom. And I know this one might seem a little bit strange because logically we would think that this is something that most people would actually strive for. But existentially speaking, freedom also means total responsibility for our choices. There's no script, there's no guaranteed path, and there's no one else to blame when things don't go as planned. That level of responsibility can feel completely overwhelming, especially when we realize that every single choice we make closes the door on 100 others. So how might this fear show up in our everyday life? Well, for many people, it can lead to indecision and procrastination or constantly second-guessing ourselves. And some of us might even avoid making commitments entirely or chase endless options. Not because we don't want direction, but because choosing one thing means that we have to let go of another. And others might gravitate towards rigid systems, ideologies, or relationships that make decisions for us. This is because we can feel like it's safer to be told what to do than to risk feeling like we made the wrong choice. Okay, let's move on to the next one, which is the fear of isolation. This is the deep, unsettling sense that in the end, we are ultimately alone in our experience and that no one else can fully live our life, know our inner world, or feel our emotions exactly as we do. And even when we're surrounded by other people, this sense of separateness can quietly shape how we relate to the rest of the world. This fear might show up as a desperate need to feel connected to or validated by others. We might also people please or overextend ourselves or even adapt our personalities in order to feel more accepted. Now, on the flip side, we might actually push people away and try to convince ourselves that we're better off alone than vulnerable, but really we're just fearing rejection and further isolation. And last but not least, we have the fear of meaninglessness. This is the type of anxiety that comes to us when we start to wonder if anything we do actually matters and if there's really any purpose to our existence. And of course, when we start to wonder if any of this really does have significance, our entire life can start to feel pointless and extremely hollow. Now, this fear might express itself as a constant need to prove ourselves or an urgency to endlessly chase achievements or recognition. We might also throw ourselves into causes, careers, or relationships that promise to give us purpose, sometimes without even questioning if they really resonate with us or if they're really the best fit. We might also try to distract ourselves with constant busyness or find ourselves completely overwhelmed by existential dread and struggle to commit to anything because deep down we're unsure what's worth committing to. And on the extreme end, we may even shut down entirely or numb out or withdraw completely because it feels safer to us than to confront the possibility that there really isn't any deeper meaning to any of this. So what do we do when we realize that we are being affected by these fears? Well, firstly, I think we have to understand that while these deep anxieties may always be a part of the human experience, they don't have to quietly shape our lives from the shadows. In fact, when we start to recognize how they show up in our thoughts, habits, and decisions, we give ourselves the power to begin to respond to them with more clarity and intention. This is because we can start to align our choices with what actually matters to us, rather than always staying stuck in patterns that do not serve us. And over time, this awareness can bring more meaning, more connection, and a greater sense of freedom in our lives because we know what we are fighting against behind the scenes. So as always, I want to thank you so much for watching today. And if you found that the video spoke to you, please know that you are not alone and that you are incredibly courageous for even being willing to look at these fears, because that is something that most people are not willing to do. Please remember to be kind to yourself today, and I will see you in the next video.